We got somebody watching. Hey, before I get started on the Discord channel, just letting everyone know on YouTube and Twitch, I am doing a session for a community stage on Discord. I'm recording it here, but all the questions should be will be prompted through the r/architecture Discord server. So I apologize for ignoring chat to begin with, but we'll get that up and going soon. So Hamza, I apologize. But if you're part of the r/architecture community, be sure you're watching and asking questions over on that community. And with that, I'm going to switch over and get it going over here. All right, guys, I see a few people over on the community stage. I appreciate you joining us. I'm going to cut that music off, as fun as it is. We're going to be working in Revit today. And this is going to be a session that is mostly for our friend, Mr. Sketchy. And so I'm going to be dealing with some of the questions that he's asked. And but we will also have time for in chat, if you have questions, to ask any questions that you might have about Revit. And yeah, we'll go from there. So with that in mind, I'm going to take one last stab. Although I know you can't talk, Sketchy, so maybe it doesn't even matter. Maybe it doesn't matter that I cannot promote you to a stage moderator, but that's okay. All right. So with that in mind, I think, can I turn this on? If I turn my camera on, it's not going to turn on. So I don't have a camera because I'm actually streaming this to my YouTube channel so that we have it for recording. We'll post the link in the thread afterwards for posterity's sake. With that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and open my Sketchy questions here. And, you know, Sketchy, I think, I don't want to be patronizing to you, but I do want to step back. And since this is kind of a Revit refresher, no, that's fine. No voice, that's fine. You can listen to me and I will watch chat. But let's step back real quick and let's just talk about Revit in general, what we're doing in it. And maybe go over just a few quick fundamentals canvas-wise and interface-wise. I know that's probably a bigger step back than you want, but also keeping in mind a few of the other viewers, just kind of giving that, hey, here's some things that you should know if you're trying to learn Revit for a job. Okay. So this is Revit. It's the big R on your desktop or in your start menu. A couple things to note. Typical Autodesk canvas. Sorry, interface. You have your canvas here where your model is going to show up. And we've got our view tabs across the top. Okay. We'll come back to some of these that I might have some tips and tricks to help you out with that. We have our ribbon across the top here. Okay, it wasn't always like this. It used to be all the tools down a ribbon down the side. That was before they introduced all this. You have a quick access toolbar up here, which you can add more tools to. Okay, so if there's things that you use frequently, you can click on those up there. You have on your ribbon, you have different ribbons. So if someone asks you to go to the view ribbon, this is what they're talking about. All right, go up here. You can also, if you hover over these tabs, you can use your middle mouse button to scroll over them. So if all of a sudden you jump from one ribbon to another, you might want to check to see if maybe you mouse scrolled through that. Okay. And then each ribbon has multiple panels. So this is the architecture ribbon. This is the build panel, circulation panel, model panel, etc. Something that a lot of people don't know is that you can control, drag some of these panels. Sorry, let's see here. Where is it? You can drag these panels around, whoop, just like that. So if you don't like the order that they're in, you can drag these panels around. So if you're a structural person, all right, and you want structure to be that first tab, you can do that. All right. And I believe, yeah, you can even, if you hold down Control, you can rip these panels out of the ribbon and have them stay on top no matter which ribbon you go to. So you can drag those, and so I can drop that back in here if I want to. And I believe you can do that with just about any panel. And you can also, I believe, rearrange these. All right. So if you don't like the default order, you can Control drag these around. Be warned though, if you mess it up, you will have to do a reset on the UI in order to get it back to the default setting. There is no quick undo for this. Okay. So keep that in mind. All right. I'm going to come back real quick. Let's see. Making sure I'm not missing anything here. All right. So we've got ribbons panels. We have our palettes over here. Okay. I have my Revit is set up with the palettes on the same side. I used to have one palette on one side. All right. So I'd have one palette docked on one side, another palette docked on the other. That allowed me to not have to scroll. I actually haven't gone back to this since getting an ultra wide monitor, although I might do that now. I might have it ripped out and do that. But I believe this is the default setup with the project browser and the properties palettes stacked on top of each other like this. But again, just like the panels and ribbons, you can rip these out and move them around. All right, they dock to the sides. You can dock them to the top. You can also dock them kind of embedded in other panels. So you can do it like this, right? And you can make it, you can make it to where these panels are tabbed. Well, there we go. So now they're tabbed down here. It's a little finicky because now if I pull that out, you can see that the tabbed panels are still combined. So I actually have to rip it out of here and then redock it and then redock this. It's a little finicky. You have to kind of play around with it. There we go. And now I've got it back the way that I want. All right. Obviously, this is your canvas, just like we talked about a second ago. Below the canvas is your options, your canvas options. So your view options are down here. You can see that this view is in perspective mode. If I switch it to orthographic, it will show the scale. So if you're in an orthographic view, you'll show the scale down here. So if I go to a first floor plan, the scale is shown here. You've got things like your detail level, what the view style is, hidden line, shaded, all that fun stuff, sun path, all this stuff that you can turn on and off in the view properties. This is almost like a quick access toolbar for your view properties. So that's kind of what you're looking at there. Let's see here. Below that, we have a few things. You have in the bottom left, you can see it says click the select tab for alternates, blah, blah, blah. This is going to be your informational toolbar. So like in AutoCAD, when you start a tool, you get information about how to use that tool. So if I start the floor tool, you can see here that it is now telling me pick walls to create lines. And the reason it says that is because of the way the floor tool is set up here. If I select the line tool, you can see now it says click to enter line start point. Or if I use the pick walls, it'll say select an edge or line. So this is all kind of dependent on how your tool is currently set up. So you're going to get instructions on what to do next down here. So if you're not sure how to do something with a tool, check that bottom left corner. All right. So you can see I'm in the wall command, click to enter wall start to point. That also brings me back to another helpful tool. Revit out of the box has, I would say, decent pop-up tools or pop-up hints. So if you're not sure how to use a tool also, you can hover over a tool and it'll give you usually 2 levels of help. The first one is that quick pop-up, create a room bounded by model elements. And if you hover over that even longer, most of the tools have a little video that will start playing that will help you see and visualize how to use that tool. So same thing here. If I hover over floor, this one doesn't have a video. I believe it's just a further explanation of how to use. This is, right now I'm starting for beginners on Core. It's a good question, but I'm going to step into more specific questions in just a minute. So this is more of a refresher in case there's something maybe that you knew at one point, and maybe I can remind you by going through it. But just for like the first 5 minutes of this or so, I'm going through just a quick refresher on the interface and where to find things. So yes, if you hang in there for just a second, we'll get into the more specific stuff. And if you have a question you want to ask, feel free to go ahead and put it in chat, and then we'll get to it as soon as we get through some of these other questions that I have gathered to go through. So good question though. Let's see here. So some typical behavior in Revit when you select an object, okay, it's the properties palette's going to tell you what you have selected. It's going to tell you what category it is and what the instance properties are for that object. If the object has type properties, you'll be able to select the edit type and go into the edit properties. And also when you select an object or when you enter a tool, your palette, your ribbon's going to change, and you're going to get a new context ribbon. And the context ribbon is almost always going to be this green color. Depending on what you select, it's going to give you more context about what you have going on. So for instance, when I select this wall, I have the option to edit the profile, set a wall opening, attach or detach, things like that. However, if I start the wall command, you can see that the context menu is more about the tool placing that wall. So what shape do I want to place it? So you want to pay attention to that when you start commands. You also want to pay attention to this options bar, which is right across the top. You can actually dock that at the bottom if you right click that. So if you like having those options at the bottom, more AutoCAD style interface, you can do that. I will say that having it docked at the bottom does present some bugs occasionally that the only way to fix is to reset your user interface, which is never fun if you've done interface customization. So if you're working in Revit and you can't seem to find these things that you're used to seeing, maybe look around, see if somebody's played with the interface, made some changes, things like that. Okay. I think that kind of brings us to, I did want to talk about the view tabs real quick. So these tabs are it's just like browser tabs. You click on a tab, it takes you to that view. I have an extension that allows me to colorize different projects so I can see which tabs belong to different, as Dum Dum mentioned, they'll use PyRevit. This is an extension that automatically colors the different projects. So you can see I've got 3 different projects open. The reason this is important is because a lot of times Revit users have many tabs open and they're not sure where they go. And they get to the point where they actually have to use this drop down over here because the tabs no longer fit on the screen. So if you have a ton of tabs open, check this drop down, see if what you're looking for is over there. PyRevit is a great tool. It'll also have, instead of solid colors, it will be outlined for families. So I'll show you that real quick. I'm just going to open. I'll just open this title block family, and you'll see that instead of a colored fill, it has a border around it. And again, it's a different color than everything else. So if yours doesn't look like this, that's fine. This is really the only thing that is not out of the box that I'm using, PyRevit. So if you see anything else that looks different, feel free to jump in with questions and we'll go from there. All right. Mr. Sketchy, I think we're at the point where I'm going to start on your list. So I'm going to start with the, let's see here. Your first question was lot bearings. And you specifically asked about lot bearings. I'm going to ask, because the follow-up question was will that include slope data, or is that a different process? Do you want to go over both of those? Okay. So yes, it is for entry, but it's also for you, my man. So if you want to go over slope data, we can do that as well. Now, I will warn you, I haven't played with Revit's new Topo Solid features, so I know it's very similar, but we might be learning together on that. But we can definitely go over setting up a site using contours. That won't be a problem at all. But okay, so let's talk about site bearings. Now, one of the challenges to doing this to an international community is I'm going to be using the imperial system. It's going to be very similar for other people, but I just want to give you a warning. I'm going to be using imperial units. It's going to be easier for me to teach that way. You should be able to apply this knowledge in metric if you're using a metric system or a different system. So what I have here is a very large sitemap that I grabbed for one of my projects. And I'll be honest, all I did was trace over this for the purposes of this project, but you can get very specific when you are, actually, it doesn't look like I did trace this. It actually looks like I might have, oh, nope, I didn't. I sketched it. And that's fine, because I can show you how to do both of these. So what I was looking at here, when I hit edit table, I got a warning that said it was going to convert the sketch to a table that has the bearings for the plot lines. So we might actually do that. Let me do that. I'm going to copy this. And this is going to be outside. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. By the way, I use a lot of keyboard shortcuts. So if I do something and you're like, what did he just do? Just ask. I'll go back. We'll trace back our steps and we'll figure out what it was that I did. I'm going to pick one of these lots that has kind of a curvy setup to it, just so that we can see what some of those look like. And I'm going to just trace over this real quick so that we have something to do. And I'm just using the create property line by sketch tool here. And I'm using snap to endpoints to snap to those ends. And then I switch to the radius tool here, and we're just going to do some snapping. I don't know what that radius is supposed to be, but that's going to be close enough. Okay. It looks like I missed a line over a couple lines over here. Actually, did I miss a line? Or yeah, I think I didn't have chain turned on. So again, this is why the options bar is important. If I had turned chain on, I wouldn't have missed these. It would have just drawn those consecutively. But because it was turned off, I need to go back and redraw these. Okay, and let me just show you real quick what that would look like with chain turned on. So if I had chain turned on, I could have done this right here. I could have just gone click, 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 click. There we go. That's it. You can see I've got a closed loop right there. And I showcase trim extend too. Yes, remind me, we might not get that today, but yes, we can talk about trim extend a little bit later. Because that actually is one thing that Sketchy wants to talk about, is things that are similar and different from between Revit and AutoCAD. I don't know that trim would have fixed the problem that I just had, because I had lines that were completely missing. If they were short or long, I could have done that, but I don't think that would have fixed what I just had. But yes, trim extend is one of my favorite tools in Revit. Okay, so I now have this property line that I made, and it's by sketch. Okay, so if I were to, I'm going to hit edit table just so that we can see what this looks like in a property line, to set this up by property line. So the way that this is set up is I have a distance and I have a bearing, and this bearing is in a 360-degree compass setting. So 0 and 360 are straight up, 180 straight down, 90 is east, 270 is west, okay? All around that way. Now, I'm just going to ask you, Sketchy, in the Philippines, how do they do bearings? Is it Is it a northeastern, northerly line, southerly line? How do they typically show that? And while you're answering that, I'm going to go set up the units to do this in a different method that I am used to, so that I can explain that a little bit as well. If I can remember where to find that blasted setting. Project units. I don't think this is where it's at, actually. Common. It's not. Massing at site, model site, property line data. There it is. So Sketchy, do you know, do you guys use degrees or degrees from north-south? Or the answer could be you're not sure and I just need to go over both. So while I'm waiting on that answer, I will say in the US for civil, okay, so, oh, interesting. I don't, oh, 1 to 2 is line segment 1 to 2. And then it's east 25 is 10 meters. 10.0 is meters. Okay, we can do that. So that east 25 degrees. Let me see if I can just pull this over on the screen so that other people can see this as well. Will it let me do that? Boom, look at that. Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. What I'm seeing here is you've got line segment 1 to 2, line segment 2 to 3, line segment 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and so forth. And then it has a degrees from north-south with minutes and seconds. So this is 45 minutes. Well, is this feet or is this minutes? I think this is 25 degrees. Yes, degrees and minutes. So you have a line that is 25 degrees, 45 minutes east of north. Okay, and it's 10 meters. Yep, just like that. All right. So this is the degrees from north-south and degrees, minutes, seconds setting. And where I got to that, just so that you know, is under the massing and site ribbon, under the model site tab, and then in property line data, you can set up how these are displayed. So if I hit OK here and I go and I enter this edit table here, you can see now that my bearing is no longer a degrees, decimal degrees. It is now a north-south bearing. I'm not going to go into how this rose compass system works, mostly because it's a session all on its own, but secondly because I would have to relearn it because it's not something that I know well enough to just be able to explain it. Unfortunately, it's something that I'm just used to and not really good at explaining. It just happens for me. So we're going to skip that in terms of explaining how that works. What I will do real quick is I'm going to input this and show you what that would look like from a property line setting. And I'm just going to come over here to a blank space. And we are going to go in here and use the property line tool. And I'm going to create by entering distances and bearings. And I'm going to create 4 line segments. And by the way, did you know that if you have your settings, your unit settings to imperial, you can actually still enter metric units. So I'm going to hit 10 meters. The distance goes first in Revit. And then we're going to say, okay. So this is east of north, which is opposite of this. So we actually would need to subtract, I believe, 180 from this in order for this to work. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm just going to kind of just do it this way. It's not going to look pretty, but you can put it in this way. So 25 degrees, 45 minutes. You can just put a space in between, right? And it is a line, it's not an arc. All right, so I'm going to put the next one in, 15 meters. And this is west and south. I think I can actually put a negative in here since it's, let's try it. Let's just see. Nope, it's not going to let me. Okay, that's fine. Stop. Oh, that's right. I have to subtract it from 90. We're just going to see what happens if I put it in this way. 10 and 30. All right, so I'm just putting a space in between there to show that. And then this is 8 meters. I'm pretty sure this is not going to work. 18 space 15. And if there's a seconds, you can do 18 space 15 space 13. So that'll be 18 degrees, 15 minutes, 13 seconds. You can also put the single and double quotes in if you want to, but that first part with the degree symbol, you don't need to do that. There we go. What was that? That was south and east. That was north, west. Yeah, I can tell you right now, this is not going to close because I didn't do the conversion. Okay, you can see there's 21 feet between the first and last point, so it'll tell you whether or not it's going to close on the bottom here. If I hit OK, I'm going to get this funky line. That's okay. Because, well, you know what? Let's just go ahead and convert it. What is it that I usually do here? I think in order to go the opposite, I just need to do south, west. South and east, north and west. No. What is it that I usually do to convert this? Yeah, so the difficult part here is going to be just converting those numbers, right? Because the north and the north, south, east, west is always going to be in this order. So I think, yeah, we can see one by sketching. I did one by sketching to begin with, but I just want to see real quick. 65, 15. So maybe if I do, let's just see 65 and 15. So this is 25, 45 minus 90 gives us 65 and 15. And I think so 25 degrees. I believe this is the first line here, so it is going. Which one is the first line? That's that one. So I have it going south of west. All right, let's figure it out. Not quite 25 degrees. We call this Baron. We're going to call it Baron. Read spin at seconds. So what was this? East of north. 545. So I've got it 1 degree off. Not sure how that happened. Oh, because I didn't carry the 1. This is what happens when you don't stay in school, guys. So 6415 south of west. So we did get the right answer. I just didn't put the numbers in right. So here we go. 15 meters. And we're going to do north of east. And then I'm going to take the 1030. So 90 minus 10, 80 minus 1 because we have to take away from this. And so that's 30 degrees to get it to a minute. So that's going to be 79:30. Let's just see where we get there. Well, that doesn't feel right, but you know, let's see what happens. Insert 8 meters south. Yeah, this doesn't feel right either. To east, insert 20 meters north, 720 west. Sketchy, do you know what it's supposed to look like? You know what I could do? Is I could just use this one that's oriented correctly. Let's do that. So this is 13.89 meters. North 6154 west. Okay, we got that. And then 16.68 meters north 2408 east. And then 11 meters south 6803 east. And then 17.3. So this is just a random sample. So there's a chance that these might not actually be accurate to begin with. That's what I'm hearing. Can't form angular dimension. Oh, that's fine. Dadgummit. It didn't like that this dimension was connected to it. Hey, there's one. All right, let me see if this one works, and then I'll come back and do that one. So 13.89 north, 6154 west. And I'm just using tab to go through these other. I wonder if I didn't put meters in on one of them. So north 2408 east, 11 meters south 6803 east. Oh, no. Yeah, 11 meters. That's right. 17.43 meters south 1925 west. Hey, that's pretty close. All right, it didn't quite connect the way we want to, but you can see how it begins to work. Okay. All right, so I've got this other one here. Let's see if we can get this one to work. All right, so I'm going to do a new table. So massing in sight, property lines, right, by entering distances and bearings. And real quick, Sketchy, does that make sense how I got these bearings to show up like this? I don't think the default template uses bearings. It uses decimal degrees. Okay, so again, real quick, in the model and site drop down, property line data, it's here. You would intuitively, you would think that it's under project units, but it is not. You can change the angle here to be degrees, minutes, seconds by default, but what you're actually looking for is the model site property line data, entering this information using degrees from north-south and degrees, minutes, seconds. So let's see here. It looks like this is all properly formatted as well. So let's go and make a new property line. By the way, one of my favorite keyboard shortcuts is CS for create similar. I don't know if that's a typical keyboard shortcut. But I have it set up that way. The reason I like that is because if you use create similar, it's going to start the command with similar properties to what you have selected. So if you have a wall that has a certain top and bottom setting, it will take those properties and create a wall similar to that. Same thing with windows and doors and all that fun stuff. So I'm going to create by entering distances and bearings. And I'm just going to go ahead and add those 6. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, can't count again. 1.26 meters. We're going to go south 55, 32 east. Then we got 4.26 south 3819 east. And then we've got 3.93 meters south, 47 east, 14.66 meters. Oh, another south. Man, this property just keeps going south. 5705. Ah, here we go. There's the turn west. Okay. Then we've got 15 meters north, 1947 west. We've got 9.77 meters north, 720 east. All right. Well, you see this one doesn't seem to want to close either. 1, 2, did I miss? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Did I? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hello? There's one. Oh, it looks like I did not put meters in for one of these. How come you guys let me do that? 1.26 meters. There we go. Okay, so this is what we get here. Survey data often contains some slight imprecisions. The current data indicates a gap of 0 feet, 143, 256 of an inch. Press add line to close a property line, or press OK to treat it. I very rarely add that line. Okay, but if we zoom in, we will see that we have that. Sure, it is possible to change it after the fact. But once you convert this to a sketch, so I'm going to copy this over here. You can see here if I hit edit table here, I've got that. Oh, actually, it looks like you cannot convert it to a sketch. So what you would actually have to do is create by sketching, and then you could boom, 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 boom. Right, and then I move it over here, and now I can edit that and use DumDum's favorite tool, which is the, oh, it looks like it actually fixed it for us. That's interesting. And, oh, you know what? I bet when I did the pick lines, it fixed it for us. So that's what it was in the other one. Then I can just do like that using the trim tool, which is this guy right here. Ooh, it's a lot like the fillet command in AutoCAD. Okay. So there we go. Those are two separate ones. You can see here, this one is by table. If I hit edit table, it'll bring the table up, and there's no edit sketch, right? This one, if I select it, there's an edit sketch option, okay? But if I wanted to, I could actually edit table. It's going to tell you, hey, you're about to convert this to a table-based sketch. You cannot go back, which is fine. And now you can see that I have the table version of that, which should be pretty close to what we have. Yep, there's a 72 northeast. There's a 5532. So it is, yep, 5532, 3819, 2947, 5705, 1947. And I think the distances are going to be just a little bit different. Okay, so does that answer your question, Sketchy, about doing property bearings in Revit? What about labeling? Do you think, should we go over labeling these? So we see here that we've got some labels on these lines, or do you think just sketching is going to be sufficient for what you've got? Okay, so let's get into annotations a little bit. Quick primer. In Revit, there's no layer system, there's categories, but there are kind of stacks of layers in Revit in terms of how things are represented in a view. I have a couple drawings that I did on a blog post, which is kind of broken. It doesn't work very well, but think of it as your model layer is your bottom, your base layer, and your annotation layer is kind of a piece of tracing paper on top of that. So, for instance, if I put some text in here, all right, and I change the scale, you'll see that the text actually disappears because it's so small now. Okay, and that's because that tracing paper sitting on top is unaffected, right, by what happened with the scale. Okay, so that tracing paper kind of just stays life size. All right. Same thing with the annotations. So if I go in here and I'm going to use the tag tool, and it's going to complain because I don't know that I have a tag for this guy. I do not. So I'm going to load one. Okay, this is where it's going to get interesting because I don't know that I actually have too many families loaded. Because I lost all of my stuff in the great server crash of 2023. Actually, it's the beginning of this year. Where is my stuff? Revit 2023. Here we go. So I'm just going to see if I can find a default library. Annotations. Let's see if we're going to get lucky. Is there a property line? Civil. Property line tag. Yeah, that'll work. There we go. Property line tag. So I'm going to place it, and then we're going to dissect this a little bit. Yeah, that's a good idea, Dum Dum. We'll talk about that in a second here. So for some reason, Autodesk thinks that every tag should have a leader. I tend to turn this off almost every time I tag things. But the way this tag works is you can see that I hover over a line, and it's going to label that line based on the bearings for that line. So I'm just going to click these, place some of these labels. Let's change the scale a little bit. Where are we at? We're at 1/16. Let's go 1/10. There we go. Now, the interesting thing about this is you'll remember this is by sketch and this is by table, but Revit is going to understand what those bearings are, even on property lines that use a sketch. And what's nice about this is, let's say something happens and, it wasn't letting me edit the sketch. Oh, wait, which one's a sketch? None of them are sketches. Oh, you guys let me convert that drawing again. Create by sketch. Right. That one's the sketch. Let's move it out of the way. Delete that. Bring this back over here. I'm going to use the create similar tool. There we go. So we can see we got this. Okay. So the tag for this does not care if it is by table or sketch, right? It will understand what that angle is. And if we go in and we change this sketch a little bit, okay, those tags will update as well, okay, based on whatever it was. You can see that it also automatically rotated the tag appropriately as well. Okay. So let's look real quick at this family. So I'm just going to select that annotation and go look at the family. And you can see that this is made up of several labels. Okay, we've got looks like we've got some visibility tags. Oh, okay. So depending on how you want to show this, we have different labels. So we have some for decimal degrees, and we have some. So this one is going to be for decimal degrees. So if I look at the visibility tag, we can see that that's for decimal degrees, and we've got our distance down here, which looks like it's always on. So what does that look like back over here? If I select these tags, right, I can change it to decimal degrees, and now we've got north 60.22 degrees east, and so forth. Okay, does that make sense? All right. Doing that selection reminded me of something that's a really powerful tool that a lot of people don't understand about selections and selection filters in Revit. So if I go through and if you have a drawing that's just like so full of a bunch of stuff, and like you're like, I know that something I want to select in here is in here, but I can't for some reason get the view set up. So I've got 93 objects selected here. There's two things that I can do. One, if I want to keep this selection but only affect certain things, like say for instance, if I want to only affect the walls that are in this view, I can select the walls filter from the properties palette, and you'll notice that I still have everything selected, but I'm only getting the properties for the walls. So I can change the top and bottom constraints of all these walls in one swipe without removing my selection. Right? Same thing with floors. I can change all the floors, and you can see all the floors that I have selected are of one type. They all have different properties, so I can change them all to be 3-foot offset if I wanted to. All right, or a different type. But if I wanted to, so again, just to clarify, I still have 93 objects selected. Okay. Now, if I go through and I only want to select the windows, then I want to use my selection filter here. And I'm just going to say check none. I'm going to say let's only select the windows. And now you'll see that I have only windows selected over here. All right. So now everything that's showing up in this is for my selection only. Okay. And you can see that I don't have anything else in my properties palette selection queue, I guess you can call it, list. Revit works off of lists in the database. Okay. So if you're ever stuck in an area where, like, say for instance, you want to, I can get this out of the way. Close it actually. Let's see. So let's say that I'm selecting a bunch of things, and I got multiple things. I don't know where the properties are. Well, just go look and see if maybe you need to check to see what you've got selected. All right. Okay. Helpful or not, I don't know. You can use it the way you want. Okay. So real quick, it looks like Sketchy, you want to talk about offsets as well. So let's talk about offsets, like setbacks and whatnot. Yeah, I need to do like a whole series that's just this. I'm actually glad we're doing this because this gives me an idea or a way to kind of filter this stuff through. Okay, so you can see I have a couple of views set up here. And the way that I do setbacks might be a little different than possibly what some other people would recommend. But let's talk about how I do this. So you can see that I've got one closed property loop or property line loop, okay? But I also use the property line command for my setbacks. And you can see that I have one property line that is for my front and back setbacks, and I have another property line that is for my side setbacks. So what I will typically do when I am working, what is this? Oh, that's the other property we just did, isn't it? You know what? Let's go work on that one after I show you how I did this one. Okay, we'll do an offset on that. So if I enter these, you'll see that these are by sketch. And really all I do is I use the pick line tool and I offset those by that amount. Okay. And I'll go through and I'll adjust them to be trimmed to those certain lines and whatnot. But that is how I do my setbacks. Now, I don't label my setbacks in a manner that is really, we'd say Revit correct. So let's see here. Do it. Apparently I don't label my setbacks at all. Why did I not do that? Hold on a second. Let me see if I've got a site plan that I actually labeled. Fire review. Yep, here we go. So you can see here in this one, I've got it labeled as a 50-foot setback. Now this is just text. All right, this is not a tag. I can set that up as a tag. I have in the past. It gets to be a bit of a drag sometimes when you can just put 50-foot setback, right? And it's not automated. So if I offset this 50 feet, there's nothing that's going to tell that line that it's 50 feet from this other dimension. Okay, so I just put some text in there, and you can see over here I've got 10-foot easement, right? 10-foot easement back here, 10-foot easement over here. Now these are tags. This is a tag that does actually, I can actually tag, I think. Oh no, these are just lines. What have I done? If I did use property lines, I could have tagged those the same way. I'm actually going to bring this into that other project. Wait, it's the same one. Oh, it's not the same one. It's just called the same thing. Let me come back to that, dum-dum. So let's edit family. Okay, see, I formatted this a little bit differently because this is the way I like to see it. I'm going to load this into, what is that, Platvoet that we were looking at? Okay, I'm going to overwrite the existing one. And you can see when I overwrite that, it actually updated my other ones as well. Okay, so let's go look at that example that we just had. So these are property lines. Whoa. All right, fine, we'll use that view. Is this text? That is text. So if I went and did annotate tag and then selected those, you can see that it'll actually tag that setback with those coordinates, but that's not really what I want. I would just come in here and do, 25-foot setback or something like that. And I would make this my 30 seconds inch annotation, I think. And I think I have one that's transparent. Yep, just like that. And maybe give it a little bit of rotation. Okay, so I can achieve the same thing just using text, whatever that is. All right. So let's go look at how I would achieve that with this other property. Okay. Is it disorienting for me to do it in this orientation versus the orientation that I had on the other view? Does it, like, if I keep working from here, does that make sense to you? Or do I need to go back to the site plan where it's oriented true north-south? It's fine. Okay, that'll make it a little bit easier, a little bit cleaner. Okay, so we're going to go from there. For the sake of this exercise, we're going to call, so we've got this and this. I believe this house, the driveway is here, so we're going to call this the front and this the back, so we've got side and side. And I think, are the offsets labeled in this? I don't know that they are. So we're just going to make them up because we can do that. So let's say we've got a 25-foot setback on the front. Okay, so what I would do is, again, I come in here and do create similar, create by sketching this time. I'm going to do pick lines, and I'm just going to set the offset at 25 feet. There we go. There we go. And I'm just going to leave that like that for now. And then let's say that we've got because there's utilities back there, you can actually see that this strip of land has a really big setback across the back of the property that's not even parallel with the back of the property. Jeez. So we do actually, it looks like we have a, like a 10-foot easement back here? Oh, 4-foot easement. Okay, so we have 4 foot, what was this across the front? Oh, oh, this is an arch. So we could actually do this and see what the difference is. 25 foot. Okay. I just threw down some radial dimensions there to find the difference. There's not a really great way other than using the tab button to maybe see what that dimension is supposed to be to get that. And then this one's just odd. I remember this project being such a pain. Let's just do a 35-foot back easement for the house. As you can see with this project, we didn't care. We just went right into it. Okay, so I'm going to work off of this same property line because it's front to back. And I'm going to do a 4-foot easement there. And let's just do something funky like what the other one did too. Let's just do something like this. All right. And I'm just going to leave that like that for now. Okay. And then I'm going to go do another property line, again by sketch. And we're going to do some 10-foot offsets on the side yard offsets. And what I'm actually going to do for this, because usually the front and the back are like the defining, lines, I'm going to use the extend, okay? And I have these set up as two different ones, extend single, extend multiple. One is XM, one is XS. So I'm going to use XM. Actually, it didn't matter. I can just use XS to do that, and then that. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I can use XM on the back, select that as my bounding element. Boom, boom. There we go. So that's a lot like the trim extend feature in AutoCAD. Not to be confused with the trim feature in Revit because it is very different. And then we're going to extend these to the side like this. And then this is going to decisions. I think I want this to go all the way across because it probably connects to another offset or easement that's on the adjacent property. And then this front one, sometimes I like to go across a little bit just to show that it does connect to the adjacent ones also. I usually don't do that on the front, on the back ones. So this is what it ends up looking like. Okay. And from there, I'll usually do something like I'll do an override once I'm in the view that's going to be on the sheet. I'll do an override by element, and we'll make the side lines. Actually, we'll just do that for all of these. We'll make these a little bit different. For these lines, instead of being that property line, will be maybe like a dash. Okay, so they read just a little bit different, and it helps differentiate between the property line and the setback. And then we would come in and put our text in. But building setback, right? On the Y, this is the default text for this. Copy, move that over here. Boom. And I'll usually put that inside the step back zone. I do kind of miss my tag, but it was such a pain to maintain that. But it was nice that it kind of oriented itself automatically. Put easements. Some weird rear setback. Right. All right, so there's the annotations and the building setbacks. Did that cover everything? Did it bring up any more questions about property lines and setbacks? So that puts us 1 hour into this, and we've answered question one. Do you want to do contours real quick, or do you want to move on to like initial setup of projects? I say real quick. Contours are not a quick topic, so if that's kind of a low priority item, well, yeah, of course I could. You tell me what the priority is for you. There's a question on here that I think is pretty interesting. Stuff done differently in Revit versus AutoCAD. I feel like that's, oh yeah, the contours. I mean, we could do something super quick, but I feel like you want more information about how to convert contours into an actual site and how to label contours and things like that. And that does get pretty complicated. In fact, I think I might have a video somewhere on how to do that already. Okay, so if you had to choose between annotating plans or stuff done differently in Revit versus AutoCAD, what would you go with? Peek over and see if anybody's asking questions. Although someone asked the question, it probably went away quite a while ago. Nope, no one's asking questions. Ooh, he's writing a novel over here. Annotating and showing details, I feel like that would be more practical. Okay, so let's talk, I guess. So when you say annotating, just generally annotating a project or setting things up like sections, elevations, call outs for details, things like that. Dimensions, just like just generally annotating a sheet. Yeah, let's go with one of my favorite projects. Okay. So a couple things to keep in mind. Something that is very similar between Revit and AutoCAD is that you have model space and sheet space, because I typed all this manually on AutoCAD. Oh, all like dimensions and whatnot. Ooh. Okay. Well, you might like this then. Okay, that's actually a really good point. So this is going to, yeah. So this is going to fall a little bit into your other question about things that are different between Revit and AutoCAD, and things to avoid, to not have a hard time. One of the first things to avoid is thinking that it is AutoCAD. Some of the people having the hardest time with Revit are the people who are trying so hard to make it work like AutoCAD that they get frustrated about it not working that way. So one thing that I like to do is, when I'm explaining Revit to somebody that's coming from AutoCAD, is I ask them to kind of step back and think of Revit not as a drafting tool, but as a database. So every view that you're looking at in Revit is a window into that database from a specific perspective. So we're looking at this sheet. It is a window into the database from this sheet's perspective. The sheet is an object. that has objects on it, and that object is a floor plan. Revit doesn't care about this floor plan aside from the fact that it's an object on this sheet, right? So if I were to right click that view and do activate view, or double click to activate that view, now we're looking in the window into the database from that view's perspective. And that's the same as going to that view in my list here and just double clicking that. This is the same view. So if I select these objects here, is this not the right view? Floor plan, it is. Oh, my selection color is just it's hard to see. Okay, that's what it is. So my selection color is just the same color as my annotation. Okay, so if I select those here on the sheet and go back to the view, you can see that they're still selected right here. If I move one over here, it moves there. So I think you understand that aspect of it. But what a lot of people have a hard time understanding is that the same thing applies to schedules. The schedule is a view into the database using from the perspective of a schedule, text-based, tabular-based, all that fun stuff. So when we're looking at how to annotate something, in AutoCAD, we like to think of it as we're putting lines in model space, or we're putting lines in paper space. And when you're in Revit, you need to think of it less about putting lines in model and paper space, and more along the lines of adding information to the database that is being displayed through the perspective of the view that you're adding that information in. Okay, so this 9'8" here exists in other views, but it's only documented in the view that I put this annotation in. So let's go through, and I'm going to duplicate this view. With no detailing, and we're going to go through and we're going to create some of those labels and whatnot. Now you'll see some labels already came through. These are labels that are inside the families themselves. Those are some time-saving things that I have added to some of these families. So let's start with the big one, dimensioning, right? So let's see here. You said annotations, labels, and everything. I'm going to start with dimensioning because this is one of the things that drives me absolutely insane with people who work in Revit that are used to AutoCAD. And it's this, all right? When you use the dimension tool, by the way, most of the time you're going to be using, and it's under annotate, dimension, you're going to be using the align dimension, not the linear dimension, okay? They work different ways. They can give you the same result, but the align dimension is going to always be, with families too. Think of it that way as well. So you'll see here in that little drawing there that aligned is always going to be aligned to the object that you're dimensioning. Linear is always going to be a horizontal or vertical dimension. Okay, and a lot of people make that mistake of just because the project is orthogonal, they use linear dimensions. All right, so use a line dimension unless you specifically, oh, thank you for whoever that is watching on YouTube or Twitch that just subscribed. I appreciate that. So if you use the align dimension, okay, when you say DI, you mean the linear dimension, or you like your DI too much? Oh, you mean the keyboard shortcut? Yeah, I use DI also. So a couple things to keep in mind. All right, always check up here in your options. How do you want to dimension? Do you want to be to the wall center lines, to the face of the core, wall faces, center of core? Understand the difference between these and which one you want to use. I like face of core because that's how we frame things here in the United States. And I'm going to be able to click each of these faces of core. So first dimension for me, always overall. So longest dimension. Okay, I'm going to ignore that garage for now because it's kind of an odd shape. Boom, there's my first dimension. All right, Next hierarchy for me is going to be the big bumps. All right, so I'm going to go here, 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 here. And notice that I'm doing this in one string, not multiple strings. Okay. This is another big mistake that I think a lot of AutoCAD users do when coming into Revit, is they do this. They come in here and they make this dimension. And then they make this dimension. Then they make this dimension. Then they make this dimension. And that's, to me, that's just a mistake, because then if you want to move these, you know, you got to select all of them and then move them and lock them. And yeah, it locks in place. All right. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, I might not need this dimension. Well, guess what? You can tab select that dimension and delete it, and it keeps the other ones. So I highly recommend getting in the habit of doing all your dimensions in one string and then edit later on. Okay, come back and edit it. So I'm going to do another one here real quick. Okay, so this is a good representation of an issue here. So I'm going to go to the framing corner right here. Yeah, I'm doing it right now. Dimensioning work real easy in a few clicks. So if you do it individual segments, I just saved you about 120 clicks per segment. Now, I think what you might be talking about is, yes, there is a way. If you use, I believe, the align dimension and use entire walls, you can click an entire wall. Oops. There we go. Right? And this could be what people are doing to try to get that individual. I think this isn't working because the way that I've modeled this. See, sometimes it just straight up doesn't work also. Why are you not working? Okay, there we go. You can also make it to where it does the openings. Okay, so if I click this wall now, oh, there we go. It does the openings as well. Okay. It is usually more of a headache than it's worth. Okay, but this is a good opportunity to show what Dum Dum was talking about in terms of edit witness lines. Okay, so let's say I do this, and this works for me. This is a good baseline to begin with. Oh, automation plugins? No, I don't know of any off the top of my head. It'd be too much of a headache because it doesn't know exactly how my framer wants to see those dimensions. So I would have to go and touch every single dimension anyway to make it work the way I want. So a couple things real quick to edit these dimension lines. These grips, the middle grips here, well, the end ones, first of all, you can drag those to kind of bring it off of your object a little bit if you want. Okay. But these middle ones, you can drag that to witness to something else. Okay. You can also click it to toggle between different faces. So you can see this is the face of my core. This is the center of my core, and these are the other faces of my core. If I have this set to the face of the wall, the face of the wall, when I click that, it'll toggle to the other face of the wall. So if I come here and then click that, whoop, hello. Well, it doesn't want to go to the other face of the wall here. Interesting. I don't know why, but it just doesn't want to. Oh, there we go. It was because I was on the end of a wall. So now you can see, actually, it toggled back to the face of the core. It doesn't like, so it did actually go to, actually, it looks like it's the face of the core there too. So maybe if you dimension to the face of the core and then you click it or you change it, it's gonna go back to the default. But same thing with openings. If I click that, it's going to go toggle between left, right, center of that. So I can actually, if I want to measure the opening instead of to the center, I can do that. And then I can edit witness line, or I can right click that little bulb and do, I thought edit witness line was an option here. It's not. So we click this. I have EW set up as a option, but now I can put another dimension string right there. I'm going to move this back here so it's nice and clean. That would drive me insane. So here we go. I can move that here, edit witness line. There we go. And now I'm dimensioning, and I can do it all in one go also. Oh. So now I've got two dimensions here, but I don't want this one. I can right click that and delete witness line. Okay. One big tip in Revit for AutoCAD users is there's a lot of information in the right click. Okay, so there's a lot of information about what you can and can't do, and it's going to be different depending on what you click. So you can see I've clicked the wall here. I can break this up into different elements. I can change the wall's orientation. I can select joined elements. So if I do that, you can see it selects all the elements that are joined to it. Okay, if I right click a window, I can flip the way it's facing. If I right click a dimension, I can edit. Oh, that's what I was looking for. Edit witness line. I can do EQ display. That's kind of fun. So all of these that are 3 foot, actually 3 foot and 6 foot, I think. Nope, it's not going to do it. Just kidding. I can set a label to it. I haven't played with that. I don't know what that is. So there's a few things that you can do with this. I think actually EQ display is not working because I have multiple EQ options here. Okay, so that's kind of dimensioning. I'm not going to dimension this whole thing for you, Sketchy, but does that capture dimensioning? I know you didn't say specifically dimensioning, so I can move on to annotations and labels and stuff. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I think you know well enough that the tab. If I'm dimensioning and I want to go cycle between the objects or the face that I'm dimensioning, I can use tab to cycle back and forth between what I am and am not selecting there. Let's see here. What else is something that... Oh, yeah, so that is something here. So if I wanted to, let's see, bring this out here. If I wanted to dimension this, so I'm going to use edit witness line. And if I wanted to dimension to the corner of the framing, right, I can use tab to make sure that I'm hitting the end of it. So just like that. There we go. And just like that. Okay. And I think I didn't get lucky. I did not get lucky here. The reason that is a nice clean dimension is because I'm using a rounded dimension. So if you're like me and you're a real stickler about the fractions or the way things are rounded off, obviously if you do, if you're in metric, it's not going to be as big of a deal because you like those decimals in your dimensions. But I mean, you can mix and match dimension styles. So I can delete that segment, and now I'm going to have two different segments to these two different parts of the building. So I've got this dimension here, which is not rounded, and then I know that this is at an angle, so I can select this dimension and set it to a different dimension type that has rounded dimensions. Yeah, Encore, you can share that. We're not going to go over it right now. Maybe before the end of the stream, if we have time, we'll go over it. I really want to get through these questions that Sketchy had asked, but I will definitely, if you want to share that in support. I don't know if the community stage is set up for you to drop images in that, but you can try. I think you can drop an image here in the. If you can do an image, I don't know if PDF will really help us, but I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, drop that in there. If we have time, we'll go ahead and we'll be sure we go over that. Okay, let's see here. Let's get to, okay, annotations, labels. So I'll be honest with you. A lot of my stuff is going to be text. So I've got some text here where, I've just put text in with leaders. So let's talk about text with leaders. Okay. Using the text command, right? Pretty straightforward. And again, if you ever get stumped by something like what you're supposed to do next, just read down here in the bottom right what Revit's telling you to do. So click the start text or click and drag rectangle to create wrapping text. So I'll do 2 of those. Check your options bar up here. Okay, you can see right now I'm about to place text with no leader. So if I want to start with a leader, I would want to select one of these options here, which, by the way, in 2024, I think even in 2023, maybe 2022, you'll see that they messed up the icons. Both of these straight and curved leader icons look exactly the same, even though they're supposed to be, this one's supposed to be curved. Way to go, Autodesk. Actually, I think somebody showed me that they might have fixed that in 2025. I don't know. I'm a big fan of the straight segments, unless it's crossing a building element and then it's curved. That way we don't confuse building elements with leaders. But here we go. I'm going to set the text first. I use the 2 segments. We're going to go boom, boom, just like that. You first click your leader, then you click your shoulder, and then you click where your text is going to go. This is my text, right? Yeah. And for some reason, it's all lowercase. Okay. All right. I'm going to do the same thing, but this time I'm going to do wrapping text. So leader, and you can see here that it does snap the shoulders. So I'm going to snap my shoulder, and then I'm going to let this align, but instead of just clicking, I'm going to drag. And this is a wrapping text. Doesn't know when to shut up about how poor it was when it was growing up in a rough part of the neighborhood. Dog. All right, so we can see we set the wrapping there. This is helpful when your view kind of goes off, doesn't fit on the sheet. Yes, create similar, boom, boom. Another thing that I like to do is with text, if I know that I'm going to have a lot of similar, especially in sections, I'll just use the copy command and do multiple, and I'll just boom, 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 just straight down the line. You can see that I did a really bad job of this, but the good news is in Revit, I can just drag that and it'll snap to be aligned. All right, and then I'll just put the text that I need to put in there. And then apparently you'll crash Revit. I might have actually just crashed Revit by using the text command. Oh, it's saving. Well, yeah, I definitely don't want to do that. Cancel, please. Oh, thank goodness. That would have sucked. This is an actual project. Okay, yeah, so copy multiple works wonders. Let's talk about annotations that are tags. So using the tag, okay, so tag by cat, actually, okay. So this is the kind of dumb thing about Revit, right? So we have tags by category, okay? The thing is that I can tag furniture, I can tag walls, I can tag windows, I can tag doors. I can't tag rooms using this. And that's because I have to come use the stupid room tag tool. So for some reason, the room tags are out here in the architecture view, not in the annotate view. Okay, so if I want to tag rooms, right? Now I have this tag set up to show very specific information for my projects. Okay, it pulls information from the room object. Okay, you can see the room object is it's these X's that are filling each room, right? And if we go look at that family, It would have been fun. I've already lost all the files. Well, those were personal files, not work files. So that's a different story. Man, suddenly struggling. It's just a room tag Revit. What's going on? Okay. Okay, so I see you're trying to work along, and that's is that working okay? Is there anything that you're running into that's just not understanding? Everything's clear and clarified. Excellent. The only thing that's not clear is why Revit is really crunching on this room tag. Man. Oh boy, what have I done? What do you think? Would it be quicker to open another instance of Revit? Sometimes it is. It's a good thing I'm not actually working on this project. It's going to be faster. Open room tag or open projects? Quick um, quick tip there, you can actually right click on the Revit icon and open a second instance of Revit. This is actually a really good way if you have multiple linked models and you want to work on both of them at the same time, you can do it that way. I wonder if this one, oh, it opened. Okay, that was faster. Okay, so room tag, you can see here that I've got, yeah, me too. That's why I like doing these, just to show that there might be different ways of doing this. So you can see I've got different labels. These pull from different parameters of the room object, the area. I believe this one is like the description. Nope, that one's actually called floor finish. And this one I think is comments. And then obviously room name. So if we go back and look at that, you can see where that comes in. So if I look at the room object itself, you can see that I have the floor finish parameter called wood, comments, cathedral ceiling. And that's just the way that we've got it set up. And you know, this is just, that's the way that I use those parameters. You don't have to use them that way. You can, I mean, there's a lot of slots in there for you to put whatever information works for you in there. So set them up however you work. What else did I have annotated in here? We had window tags. Okay, so window tags, I'm going to come in here. So I have TG set up for the tag command, and tag works for multiple categories. Okay, so I can come in here and just click objects, boom, 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 boom. Okay, the other way to do that, if you're really sure that your view is set up the way that you want, is you can do under annotate, there is the tag all. Okay, and I can do tag all objects in the current view, or I can select the category. So I'm just going to do doors. All right, and you can select which tag you want. If you've got multiple tags, you can use. I'm going to do type name on tag only door tag. I think this is what I want. Type name on right there, and then I'm just going to hit OK. And you can see now I have tags on all my doors. The caveat to this is that if you do this like in elevations, it will tag windows that are around the corner. So I'll show you what I mean real quick with that. Let's find an elevation. So front elevation main. Let's duplicate this because it's already got tags on it. Okay, so you'll see that I've got windows across the front, but because this view is actually deep, right? It has depth to it. There are windows on the sides that I can't see. So if I do a tag all windows, and it's going to be objects in the current view, and I hit OK, you'll see that it actually tagged windows around the side, right? Because it doesn't know that we can't see those. Revit is like, well, it's in the view, I can see it, so I'm going to tag it. So you just have to be aware of that, right? And then I can use our selection object, our selection hack that we talked about earlier. I can just select all that right there. Oh, looks like I got that extra tag. And then I can do filter, check none, window tag, select that, and delete. There we go. All right. The other thing that I can do is, let's say that I go in, there's only one door in this view. Let's say, okay, well, let's just do this. Let's say that I only want to tag the windows that I have selected. So, oh my goodness. Go. Tab is your friend in Revit. If you haven't figured that out already. Right, so I only have these showing up here. So now I'm going to use under annotate, tag all, and we're going to do only the selected objects in the current view. And I'm going to do window tags, and I'm going to hit OK. And there we go. So now only those windows are tagged. Okay. Now, a lot of times the way that I tag things, you can see that the text kind of interferes with the object a little bit. So if I go and I tag a few things, I'm just going to do the front, or sorry, the back and this and one side here. Okay. So these look fine, so I'm not going to worry about them. But what I'll usually do sometimes is I'll come through and I'll just select all the tags like across the back. Okay. It'll be filter, check none, window tags, right? And then because I know those are all the same offset off that object, I'll just use my arrow keys to nudge those up. Okay. And the same thing like in the elevation. See how all these tags are kind of, they're not reading very well because they're in the middle of that division. Okay. So I'll select the ones that are kind of messed up that way, and I'll just nudge them down. Right. Or if there's a middle mullion or mutton, I'll just nudge them left or right so that they're readable that way. But I would try to do that on as many objects as I could at once. All right. We did tags, we did dimensions. I'm not going to go through my hierarchy of dimensioning because that's a whole theory and documentation of its own. Let's see here. I went over text. Labels, everything, call outs, things like this. So review, you call out, there it is. Okay. Drop that on a sheet. This will populate. You're done. For these tags right here, you're talking about for these callouts or for the tags? Which one? Ah, the windows. Yes. Okay. So yeah, in AutoCAD, a lot of people use wipeouts. So maybe the text is like this. So you can, if you want, you can, as a feature of the tag, make that label opaque. So right now, oh my goodness, I didn't learn my lesson the first time in opening a tag. I think these tags are, I think Revit's trying to locate the original file because it knows that these used to be accessible on my computer, but they're not. So it's trying to find the original file, and it's not having much luck with that. So let's all sit and wait while Revit figures out that it can't open that file. Might actually be able to pick the project. Let's just see. Floor plan new window tag. There's a tag. If I open this from here, is it going to be quicker? Yep, much quicker. Is the other one still cranking on it? Yep, the other one's still cranking on it. Okay. And believe it or not, this is the same family. I don't know why it has such a hard time with the other one. Okay. So this label, all right. If I do edit type, okay, you can see that the background is transparent, right? If I made that opaque and loaded it back into this other project that I just opened here, oh my goodness. I'm not sure what I was clicking, but it obviously was not what I thought. So you can see now that there's a background, right, to that label. So if I put that over here, you can see it kind of wipes that out. Now the thing about this is you can't control what the width or height of that is. It's just whatever the text size is. So if I wanted to be able to set this on an object, you can see my label here is transparent, right? So I can go control that again. I'm in the label. I go into edit type. I make that opaque. I can even show a border if I want to. I'm looking to see text size, tab size. You might be able to control some of it using this in terms of how much extra padding you get around the letter. But you can see that would be your wipeout, right? Now, if I really wanted to, I think I can come in here and make a masking region. So we're just going to make a masking region that's the same size as our tag here. And I'm going to load that in, right? And now we have that quote unquote wipeout there. And that was a masking region. So I think that's what you're asking. If it's not, let me know. And, we can back up and go over that. There's that tag. Okay. What else do I have labeled in here? Door tags, window tags, dimensions. I've got sections and elevations as well. I think those are pretty straightforward in terms of how to place them. But let's look at an elevation and see if there's anything else annotation wise that we should go over. I can already think of a couple things. Wow. How do I not have... What is this? Okay, that's weird. Main front elevation. Okay, so again, lots of text. I don't use the material tags only because it changes so often and it's such a pain to manage your material library. So I use a lot of text. Let's see here. Oh, maybe I should talk about adding text and prefixes to dimensions and also the slope dimensions as well. So let's go back to that copy here, right? Okay, so using dimension tool, if we're talking about slopes, I use DI to get into my dimension tool, and then I can use spot slope. Very straightforward on like the slopes that are facing you. Okay, so the ones that you can see, you can just drop those on there. Yep, just like that. I'm trying to find an instance of... Okay, so you can see here, if I drop this on this, by the way, you see how it's trying to grab each and every single one of these shake lines? Very frustrating. I would recommend when you're doing if you have a really complicated roof where you have things like this, I would recommend just going in and see, and I can't turn these off really quickly because I have view template set up. So if you click down here with the, where is it? Temporary view properties, enable temporary view properties. Now I can go in and turn off the roof surface patterns. I'm just going to turn them off. I'm not going to change anything, just going to turn it off. Okay, now it's not going to grab every single little thing. Now it's just going to grab the roof itself. And it'll be a lot easier to show this. So you can see here, like if I hover over this, I get 812, right? And this is just a straight gable roof, the elevation of a gable roof. But here, where we have a hip, where we have two slopes coming together, you can see it gives me a different slope. And Revit is kind of dumb this way in that for some reason the default that it gives you is not the face, but the actual ridge of that line. So it actually gives you the angle, the slope of that hip line. So what you have to do is you have to be sure you hit tab to make sure you're getting the slope of that actual line. You can actually see I get a couple different ones. So I'm getting the line for the hip, and then I'm getting the valley. You can see that I'm pointing at my screen like you can see it, but you can see the magenta line goes up to the ridge there. And I guess I can show you by going 3D here. So the 3.5, the slope is actually this line right here, right? And that 5.5 is actually this valley right here. I think I can actually maybe lock this and demonstrate that. See if it'll let me do that. Yeah. So if I do a slope here, there we go. So you can see the 3.5 is there. Yes, thank you. And then the 5.5 is there. But if I go here, that's 8, and this is 4. Okay. This again, so it's easier to see. We all like pretty, but we like communicating well better. Okay. So you can kind of see, despite the color contrast not really coming out well, that's what you're seeing if you ever have that issue. So you want to pay attention to that because you can get in this rhythm of where you're just like click, 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 right? And then all of a sudden your boss is like, there's no way that this is a 3.5 inch slope. So you want to be sure when you're doing hipped roofs that you do tab a couple times. I mean, hopefully you know what your roof slope is, so you can kind of check that as you're doing it. In this case, I probably would have put these up here anyway. Oh, you can see it grabbed the wrong one. Exactly why you gotta pay attention to it. All right. So anyway, I go through and I do that. So I got another one over here. Okay. And then what I like to do, oh, I missed a couple. Can't believe you let me miss a couple. Oh. Right. And then for my gable slopes, I'll just go through and batch select those. So I'm just holding down Control, and I change those from arrow to triangle. And if you need to make that triangle a little bit bigger, you can do that. There's not a precise setting for that, so you just kind of have to eyeball it. But you can also set that by default what that size is. I think leader length, text size. There is something here where you can set the size of that by default. I've done it before. I can't remember exactly what it is. Same thing with this leader, right? You can extend that to make it work a little bit better, right? And that's just kind of step by step going through and hitting those. That's a good question. Let's find out. So DumDum's asking about whether or not match properties will work. So match properties is this guy right here. It's MA on my keyboard command. So I'm going to do MA there. Nope, does not work. I think I remember thinking about trying that before and was very disappointed when I found out that it does not work. Yeah, there's some weird things that MA does not work for. That's pretty frustrating. I can go over this real quick. If you need to separate how your levels, if they're conflicting with each other, you can just really quickly give it a shoulder. Always be sure you check, you get that first shoulder and then the second shoulder. If you do this one, if you do this one first, you will not be able to extend beyond a vertical line. So this is how you control your height, right? So you always want to select this one first and adjust it, and then there you go, like that. And then you can also go the opposite direction if you need to. All right, what else? It's not exhaustive, but that's kind of a lot of the stuff that we have. Are there any specific annotations or labels, Sketchy, that you wanted to look at? I'm going to go look through the rest of the set to see. Encore, you should be able to post in support. Yeah. Should be able to. Oh Lord, I hope he doesn't have to worry about work sets. But we're going to be doing 2 more of these sessions over the next couple days, so it would be a little cruel to test that during a entry level interview. Yes, but I'll be honest, it is something that I would check. So I did have to create a Revit skills assessment for a company one point that I thought was fairly easy. I was only like 4 years into using Revit when I did this, and we sent the test around the office to people who were working in the office. We had a 20% pass rate for the people that already had jobs. And I think we had, out of 30 candidates that we interviewed, there were 2 people that passed the test. I didn't think it was that hard. It was things like, we gave them a model and we said, hey, tell us what the height of this floor is. So select the floor and get the offset, right? That's what we were expecting them to do. Here's the floor. That's actually a filled region. So here's the floor. What's the offset? Give us that. And people couldn't do it. So I was pretty disappointed in that. But I don't think I did work sets as part of that. Part of that assessment. Moment none. This is comprehensive and clearly and cleared out your doubts and confusions. Good, excellent. I'm just going to look through some of these other things to see. We can talk a little bit about detailing. I don't think I have any details in this project to look at. I'm trying to think if I have any projects recently that have some really good details. Spot elevations, pretty straightforward. Yeah, I'm glad those are helpful. Yeah, let's see here. What else is on? What else is on? Maintaining plans. We talked about that. What not to forget on initial setup. Let's talk about initial setup of a project real quick. Whenever I start a new project, which I may or may not be able to do right now because I don't have any freaking templates. I don't know if I can find my template real quick. Nope. I know I've got a copy of it somewhere because I recently sent it to my office. Right. Just so that I don't waste too much of everybody's time. There's Revit here. Families. Nope. All right. I'm just going to use a default default library or default template. Templates. Default. English Imperial. Use residential default projects. There we go. All right. So some of this stuff is going to be specific to me. Some of it's going to be universal. So take this kind of with a grain of salt. Starting your own project, assuming the company has a template of their own, if they're expecting you to set up their template, that's beyond entry level. And I would say that's probably a red flag. Now, you can give it a shot. Hopefully, they're going to give you some guidance on how to do that. So I'm not going to go through setting up a template right now, but let's talk about what I set up. So some of the first things that you're going to set up are your project parameters. Project information. So you can go through and set up who the model's by, what the building name is, who's authoring the model, what's the project status, development, conceptual, all that stuff. So you can go through and add this information, project address. Hopefully a lot of that stuff is tied to things that are on their title blocks. Okay. The other thing that I'm going to try to set up early in the project is the location. So I want to give it an address, and well, I'll tell you what. Let's use that project that we were just looking at. I'm going to set up an address, and I'm going to set up a project north and a site north. So real quick, let's just go to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Yes, that one. Let's see if I can find this. I think it was somewhere on 21st Street. There's Utica Square. Here's that project right here. Oh no. Oh, yeah, here we go. So that house was somewhere like right here. So I'm just going to, oh geez, I have to this is one thing that I do hate about the way that this works. There we go. Where are you putting me? So there's 51st, there's 21st. We're up here by Utica Square. I don't have to be exact, but it's going to be, I think, right there is where it was. Okay, so that's where my project is. So I'm going to set that location. The pin's pretty close. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to go through and I'm going to make sure that I have a working floor plan. So we've got this first floor plan. You can see that this is on a sheet by the square that's right here. I'm going to just, if we don't have one in the template, I'm just going to duplicate that, and I'm going to call this working plan. I might even make a new plan type called working, and I'm going to drop all my working plans in that type. Okay, so it's going to show up in the browser in a different place. And this way I can set my my view settings without affecting anything that's on a sheet. I'm going to turn on the internal project and survey based points. Okay, so we can see there's my internal point, my project north, right, and my survey point. If we have those set up, I'm going to set those up where they are. If we have a survey benchmark, I'm going to set that up. So for instance, look, I've got all these tabs open. There it is. This is how we use this. Site plan. Okay, so I'm going to grab just this property map. right? I'm just going to paste this in here. That's ginormous. So I'm going to grab the survey point, and let's just say that we know our survey point's going to be in the front left of this property. Oh, look, it doesn't close. Let's put it in the front right of the property because I know that there's a corner over there, right? And let's say that my base point is going to be like the left wall of where things go. So let's say that this is my my true north, I guess is what we're trying to say. Okay. If my project north is going to be a little bit different, let's say that the front of the property slopes this way, I'm going to set my project north up. So rotate project north. Okay. And there's a couple ways I can do it. I can select a line or I can rotate it 90 degrees. So in this case, I'm going to select this line. There we go. Right. And now I've got in project north, there we go. We've got this set up and site north, true north. Okay, just like that. So when I'm working on my floor plan, I want everything to be orthogonal to that front wall. I'm going to be working in project north. My site plan is going to be in true north. Why do I want to set this up early in the project? Well, a couple reasons. One, if I do not set this up to begin with, and I do my property lines in a project north, and then I rotate the true north to try to get it right, all those bearings are going to be off. So I have to make sure that my property lines are set in a true north view to actual true north bearings, right? Otherwise, everything's going to be jacked up when you try to get that right. The other reason is when you do rotate project north, man, I wish there was a really easy way to show this. Let me see if I can. Is that the wall command? What kind of wall am I making? I'm just going to see if I can get this to demonstrate for me. Let's throw some quick text in here. And then we're going to throw some dimensions in here. So let's say I dimension this whole thing. Oh my goodness. You can see it's already a pain. It didn't help that this is not a very sound design shape. This is where you use the pick walls option for. Nope. Why are you not working? Oh well. Anyway, you get the idea. So let's see. Some of these objects are going to rotate, some are not. So if I do position, oh goodness, I have to have project north turned on. Oh, alrighty. So you can see now those objects rotated, but if I want to dimension this, yeah, it's very contemporary. If I wanted to dimension this in this view to this orientation, you know, now I'm redimensioning this in that orientation, right? And you can see all my text is messed up. So we got to make sure we have that set up right before we really get to working. I do have some projects where I don't worry about this. They might be remodels for interior or something like that. But if you're dealing with site coordinates and bearings and whatnot, you want to be sure that you've got that set up that way. What else was I talking about? Oh, when we're setting stuff up. That's kind of, I mean, that's really kind of it. Hopefully you've got stuff already in the template. There are some things that I start out with, like making that working plan view. I make sure that all my sheets are set up. So, you know, if I don't have sheets, that'll be one of the first things that I do. I'll bring my title block in, make sure that that's got all the information that I need in it. If we have project number, so project number I put in there, I might make a little splash sheet. So that's something that's pretty useful sometimes. So if I go view, drafting view, don't do what I just did. Actually name your drawings. So flash view. All right. And then we just put some text in here. Big boy job projects. And hopefully there will be some other stuff in, like there will be a template in here, project number 2401 smiley face. Right. You can put an address in here, project contact, all this information that might be useful to have. And then something that's kind of nice is that if we go do file, save as project. Now, notice that I did file, save as project. I did not do the quick save project. And the reason is because you're going to get some options here that you're not going to have if you do it the other way. And it's this thumbnail preview. So if I select my splash view for my thumbnail, that means that when I go, and let's just throw this here, thumbnail test, right? Hit save. And then I'm just going to maximize this view. We're going to save that. And then we're going to go look in that folder. Okay. If I hover over this, or if I go to a gallery view, I can actually get project information right there in the thumbnail for this view. So that's a really nice way to make sure that you're opening the right project with the right issue date, things like that. If you have multiple versions, really nice way to get that set up. I think you can also actually, under those same options, file, save as project, options. Thought it might be a work sets only. There's a way to set that view as the view that opens. I now have a collection of possible YouTube shorts. I want to say that option is for view starting view. Oh, yep. No, you're right. Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Where is it? Where is it? View. View. Manage. Edit. Additional settings. I do think that this might be a work set only option. Beside generative design. Starting view. Oh, manage project. There it is. Okay, starting view. There it is. Last viewed, or you can set it to splash view. Okay, so now every time I open this project, it doesn't matter if I left it on this view or whatnot, save it and close it. When I open it, it's going to come up to that splash page. All right. So I would recommend, maybe if your company doesn't have one already, just make a drafting view that's a splash page that has project information. It is kind of nice to have that come up. Maybe there's an image of the project next to it that you took snapshots of or something like that. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. There is stream. Is Encore still watching? Yep, Encore's still watching. You just can't. Maybe he did find the stream again. He asked me where the stream is. I think Encore, if you can't find the stream, it should be, or if you're on mobile. I don't know if you're on mobile or not, but it should be in the channel list, either at the top or the bottom. You can just click that and end up coming back. So, I wanted to see real quick. Sketchy, is there anything else? How do you feel after going through some of this stuff? And I might think about a few things tonight, and we can come back and look over things. I'm trying to think about that stuff done differently in Revit versus AutoCAD. I used to be really good. I used to have a really big list of things. Um, don't be afraid to draft. I know it. One of the things that a lot of people get caught up in is modeling everything, but honestly, if you need to lay some lines down just to get a feel for things, drafting in um, Revit, super simple. Lots of good snaps. By the way, all your snaps under manage, additional settings. Nope, snaps right here. Okay, so here's all your snaps. They've got keyboard shortcuts next to it. Some of the snap keyboard shortcuts that I use very often: snaps off to turn snaps off so they don't accidentally snap to something. Also, snap in and snap mid I use a lot. So if I'm drawing a line or a wall and I want to turn off or filter only in snaps, I type SE. So we got that. If I do SM, now it's mids only, right? Or I actually use snap perpendicular. So if I wanted to, I could do SP, and now it's going to snap perpendicular to that line, even though it's an extension of that. So I would look through your keyboard shortcuts, KS for keyboard shortcuts, and just look and see what's in there. And it's a very exhaustive list. You can look for snap. Oh goodness, snap end. Goodness, end points. Okay, so snap is not in there, just endpoints. Look through that. Oh, things to do at the beginning of a project. Go through and make sure. Draw some walls. First of all, if you know what type of walls or construction you're going to have, make sure you have those walls and assemblies. Go through and make those first. That way, you're not having to draw things and then you go through and you add, because it's brick and now everything is different because you used a different wall type. Okay. Things to do differently in Revit than AutoCAD, I would say also. I don't know that this necessarily falls into this, but for some reason I find that a lot of people will just drag objects in Revit. Okay. Don't, like, let's say this is 42 feet. Don't just drag this and then release it. Just, there's a reason that Revit gave you this dimension. Just type it in. Right? In Revit, the thing that you're moving is going to be the thing that you select. For some reason, a lot of people also, they'll have a dimension here. And they think in order to move this wall, they have to select this dimension. Oh, that's not how it works. You want to select the thing you want to move, and then you can type in the new dimension. Yeah, I think that's awesome. Selection by face, disallow drag. Oh yeah, always turn off drag elements on selection so that you don't accidentally do this. When you just single click and drag. I just turned that off. That's the first thing I do anytime I open Revit for the first time. Selection by face, you can turn that off. So if it gets really annoying when you're hovering over things and you don't want everything selecting, you can turn that off. So that way you're only selecting things by edge. So a good example of that is, let's say you're in a floor plan view that actually has something in it. Let's say you're in a floor plan view. Okay. So see that the walls are not, or sorry, the floors are not being selected. But as soon as I turn that on, it's going to be hovering over the floors also. So right now I cannot select a floor. I can only select, like, it keeps wanting to grab that room. So you can pay attention to those things, make sure. Yeah, for some reason Revit thinks that everybody loves that option, so they have it on by default. So you can turn that off. You can do the same thing with linked objects and underlay objects and pinned objects. I'm not going to get into what each of those do, but you can take a look at each of those and see what works for you and what doesn't. Um, Pinned objects, I usually turn that off when I want to control what I'm selecting by pinning things. Uh, but one thing also to keep in mind of, so we're just into the little tidbits now. And I want this to segue into Encore's question about the curtain wall. So I'm going to add this curtain wall here. Oh my goodness. Close close inactive view. Yeah, we can do that when we wrap things up here. Do I have a project that has a curtain wall already in it? Let me just look and see, because I don't want to have to make a new one. Okay, there we go. Oh, this is our new floor plan. I just move this out here. Crop views. Do you know how to crop views, sketchy? You understand how to turn those on and off and control them? All right, so pinned objects in a curtain wall by default, your objects that are defined inside the curtain wall type are going to be pinned. So like right now I can select that, but if I want to make sure that I'm not accidentally selecting those objects, so like now I cannot select that pinned object. Same thing with the panels. Like I can't even tab through and select them. So if you find yourself not being able to select something, it might be part of a system. So just be sure you've got that pinned objects turned on and off. Okay. If you think of something else specific, let me know. In the meantime, I'm going to jump over here and grab this curtain wall that Encore wants to look at. And we're just going to do a quick how to model some curtain walls session. Well, thank you, Encore, for sticking around. Let's see what we've got here. I am going to, okay. So let's see. Encore, did you make it back to the stream? I'd hate to be doing this and you're not in there. So if you made it back to the stream, just give me just a thumbs up in the stage chat. I saw that you were asking about where it is. I see you're still in the audience. You can't find it, just I guess ping me in support. Great question. Thank you for bringing that up. Let's see here. Somebody is asking for, can you please provide the Discord link? What's the best way to describe that? Hold on 1 second. What happened to you on mobile? But you couldn't find the stream. I think so. Oh, maybe I'm confused. Maybe Encore is asking, where are you? Is Encore asking where the stream is in Discord or where the stream is on YouTube or Twitch? I don't know. Hopefully, Encore is still watching or listening. I don't see anything. Let me get this link real quick. I'm going to send the link by inviting, and I'm going to copy this, edit, invite link. And this is going to be a short-term link, so it's not going to last very long. So if you're watching this and you see the link come up, don't worry about it. It is the r/architecture Discord server, so feel free to join us. Okay, so I'm going to go over real quick. So DumDum had asked, hey, show us that close inactive view tool. So one of my favorite tools when I've got so many tabs open that I can't tell what I'm working on anymore is, in fact, the close inactive tabs. Now, the thing about this tool is it's going to close all views for all projects except the last view for each project that you had open. Okay, so the last view you have open for each project is going to stay open, but everything else is going to close, and it's going to drastically reduce the clutter here. The thing is that you might not know what you last had open, and you might not want to take the time to go through, but I can guarantee you if you use this tool, it's much quicker than going through and trying to figure out which views you want open, than to just use this tool and go back to the view that you want open. So you can either click this. I have it set as CH close hidden, because that's what it used to be before the close inactive views button was there. It was a plugin called close hidden views. So I just type CH, and you can see now I have just these projects that I have open. Now I can cull down my my selection a little bit more. So yeah, I do not want to save this. Are we still working in my second instance of? No, I'm not. Okay, I'm just going to, you know what? I'm going to leave that open just in case. See, I've been working in Revit long enough to know better. So I'm going to close some of these. And I'm going to leave this one open. And we're going to close this guy here. I'm going to close this guy here. And we're going to close this guy here. And we've got just this. All right, so I now have the PDF Encore. I really wish I knew whether or not you are able to see this, but it is recorded. So if you're not, I can just point it to you later on. I see that you're still in the audience, so hopefully you're still listening. What if we mention them here in this chat? Will we be able to find it? Maybe yes, maybe no. All right, so I have this open over here. By the way, PDFs, you can just drag them straight into Revit. You do want to make sure you set the right DPI. So 150 is usually okay. 72 is usually not okay. 300 is a little bit better if there's tiny text on it. You want to be sure that you have the right page selected. I'm just going to do this right here. Drop that in, rotate that, and now we've got a reference inside of Revit that we can use. If this is a vector PDF, you can enable snaps, all right, which does allow you to snap to points. So this is a vector PDF. I will say, if it's not a vector PDF, you will not be able to snap to things. So, all right. So let's see, what are we trying to model here? So I want to go back and see. They said, can I share a PDF of a curtain wall family, which having a hard time making it, I would really appreciate it. So the thing about curtain walls is that they're nested assemblies. That's it. I'm afraid to know what a pantsit is. That must be a Filipino thing. Okay, so the thing about curtain walls is that there's multiple families that are going on here. Okay. So I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees. So we've got the wall itself, which has a type. We have curtain panels, which is a family. Oh, okay. Ooh, that looks pretty good. Although if it's spicy, I will grin and bear it, but it might not be my favorite thing. We have mullion types, which are profiles. They're their own thing. Okay. So I'm going to start very simple with this, and we'll go from there. It looks like, what does MOD mean? Does that mean similar? Like you're going to continue that module, the 1140 module? What kind of? I bet it means modular. So you're going to continue that module through that. And then we also have what looks to be, well, what are these dimensions even to? I don't know. Elevation 1109, 1140, 1012. This might be kind of tough to model out because I'm not seeing a lot of information on what these modules should be. I see the dimensions for where the false ceiling is, but what I really need are the dimensions for where these lines are. And you know, honestly, we can probably scale this. Let's see. If I scale this, we're going to go from here. I'm going to guess here. 1140. What would that be? Centimeters? Seem right? Oh, that looks. I think that's no. It's got to be millimeters, right? Okay. It feels a little better. Yeah. Just curious, what would that be? 3'8". Yeah, it sounds about right. And then this is probably like 3 foot something. Yeah. Level height is zoomed way out. Level height is something like, yeah, 12 foot. Okay. Yeah, that feels about right. Let's see, we've got a section view here. The first thing I'm going to worry about is getting the pattern correct as we do this. So we've got a few things that we can do here. We also have a profile that we can use. Okay. Do we have? We also have a mullion type. So this is going to be a little bit difficult. Oh, this is a raster image. Oh, this one's a raster image. Oh, look, you can snap the raster images too. This doesn't have a lot of detail into it. Yeah, so you're not going to model all that, right? But you can actually make this show up in when you cut the profile. There's some things that you can do with that. I'm going to start simple, and we'll see how far we get as we do this. Okay, so we're going to start simple, and we're going to make it a little bit more complicated as we go. So one thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to, as much as I hate doing this, I'm going to start in a new project. Ugh. I'm going to copy some stuff over so that we can not have to start from blank. So Imperial. I'm going to do commercial defaults. Actually, I think that might have a curtain wall in it. Curtain panel family with the fittings, with the fitting details when I cut in section. Let me see what we've got built in here. Look at that. We've got something we can start from. Okay. And then I'm just going to copy this. Place to another. All right. So when you cut a section, you're wanting this to show up. Something like that, dum dum. Yep. Yep. All that detail. Okay. Well, we're gonna focus on the curtain wall. Okay. Now the problem with the PDF that you sent, well, is it a problem with the PDF or is it a problem with the way I imported it? Let's see. If I load this at 300 DPI, because I think I did 150 before. Let's do 600 DPI. The problem is that I can't really see what that detail is. So let's see if maybe it's not a whole lot better. Actually, here we can just copy that. Yeah, but the problem is the PDF you sent me, like this is what the scale looks like when I do that. You see it, I can't see that detail. So I don't know what I can really, like these are the fittings that you're wanting to show, the connection back to the slab. Yeah, you want to send the DWG, that would help. But we are going to go ahead and get started with, let's do, we're going to do new family. And this is going to be a profile. So I'm going to go back to Real Library. We're going to go up a few because Revit 2024 doesn't have that. And we're going to go to Revit 2022. Where's my stuff? Autodesk. Hello. 23. There we go. Libraries. Nope. What am I looking for? Family templates. There we go. English Imperial. Thank you, sir. DWG. And we're going to go profile, mullion, open. It. Then I'm just going to drag that DWG into here. Just kidding. It really doesn't like that. Really? What in the world? It's not supposed to do that, right? It's supposed to go to the folder. Yeah, like that. Am I just okay? So it did import this several times. It's just way up here. For some reason. All right, so I'm going to turn off correct lines that are slightly off axis because I don't know what's actually in this in terms of lines. So let's see here. Okay. Let me just line this up with our origin and we'll take a look at this real quick. So we need this mullion here. Okay, so there's a mullion piece here and we've got a cover piece. that comes down to the floor. Okay, so what all do you want to be shown here? Okay, so here's this mullion right here. We're going to call this the mullion, right? And I know this isn't exactly where it is, but so there's the mullion, right? It's that block right there. And then we've got this cover piece comes down right to the floor. Is that what you're wanting to show also? Okay. Or can it be that we don't need to model all this and you just need to show this detail when you cut the panel? Which of those options is it? I think I know the answer, so I'm going to start with that one. Encore. And we're going to do a detail item. And I'm going to drop that sucker in there. So import CAD, manual center, test file. Ugh. That means use this one, right? Okay. So I'm going to bring this over here to my origin. And what I want to be aware of is what is my origin for this, right? Well, it looks like we have a front-loaded panel glazing, which means it's on the outside, it's not centered or anything like that. So I believe we're going to let that be our origin, is the front of glazing. Yeah. So I'm going to move this over here, right? And then where do our panels meet here? And I believe we want that to be this intersection. Right. And I'm using the thin lines tool to make this a little bit more clear as I'm drafting this. I think we need to find the midpoint between these two panels. So I'm going to put this here and here. I think maybe it wants to be 1 inch. We might call this a good enough. I wonder if I put this right here. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. You see how that's almost right there on that. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to move this. I'm going to use the midpoint of that, and we're going to move that down to that point right there. And this is going to determine where we have this profile, or where we have this detail in our profile. Okay. It looks like it's going to be very similar down here also. Now, what I would probably do from here is I would set up some different line types. Okay, so I would set up some categories in my detail components. What am I looking for? Object styles, categories, do line. That's detail items. I think manage object styles. That's what I'm looking for. So we've got heavy lines, light lines, medium lines, things like that. And I'd go through and I'd set those things up, making sure that when I draw these, they show up correct. So I can either use the pick lines tool, or not. I don't know why I can't pick that line. I can trace over it. And this is why sometimes I don't use the pick line tool, because sometimes it doesn't get you where you need to be. Okay, so I can use the pick line tool to start setting some of this stuff up, right? And you can get a lot of the way there but you're going to find that you do run into some limitations in what Revit can do with those pick lines. So you are going to end up needing to come back and redo some of that. Like, I don't, but it does want to. I'm not sure where along this path. Oh, it seems like right there it doesn't like that. So we're going to have to come back and fix that. Right? And you can do these in separate pieces. Okay, I'm going to have to come back and fix that because it's smaller than 2/56 of an inch. It doesn't like this one. Okay, so a lot of these we're just going to have to come back and fix later on. You can always also do these in individual pieces, right? So I'm just going to do this all in one go here. I'm just going to trim this instead of making it curved. I don't know that we'll be able to actually draw that curved piece there. Yeah. I do fillet right here. I can, yeah, I can do one. There we go. So I can go back and do that if we really want to. Let's see here. It's really weird that I can't select these pieces. It's also interesting that it just kind of disappears. It's almost like this piece isn't formed quite right. Do I have chain turned on? I do. Oh, do I already have lines here? I do. Okay. So I'm not going to worry about that. Let's just look and see where we're at. We're pretty far from where we want to be. I'm just going to get a general shape here because this method will apply to the rest of the project as well. Just go down here. Man, this is such a weird drawing. Yes, it does this. I don't know. It's not going to like that. Yep. I have found that sometimes if you draw an element that's shorter than what Revit likes, no, I would never recommend exploding a DWG because it creates categories that you will never be able to get rid of. In fact, I just had to deal with this recently on a project where we kept getting dinged in quality because a DWG kept showing up in the import list that wasn't actually there. That we couldn't get rid of because the category was permanently there. So it showed that the DWG was loaded and it wasn't. So, yeah, no, do not explode DWGs in your Revit file. I'm going to get this to where it just looks kind of okay enough when we bring it in. So like that. I want to get a closed piece here. In hindsight, I probably would go and do maybe these different pieces individually. We got those. Let's see. Let's do this piece that comes back into the slab, this embed. Oh my. I'll be really surprised if it gives me all that. Holy cow. Okay, it didn't give me all of that, but it gave me enough. I'm just going to do this. Whatever, man. How are we getting close? Well, that's really disappointing that it doesn't want to let you draw these lines. I'm just going to get something close so that we can move on with how this works. Because, oh boy, I can see why you were struggling with this. But I can also say with certainty that you might want to question whether or not you actually want this detail to show up everywhere you cut this wall, or if you just want it to show up in one detail. Okay. Oh, that was interesting. Yeah, that means we're going to have fun when we actually load this in. You guys see how that was disappearing? Okay, so I'm going to leave this kind of as it is, right? You get the idea. You're gonna draw all this stuff in, and this is in a detail item project. So here we go. I'm going to well, you're not going to model all this, or else you're going to have a model that crashes. But I'll show you how this will show up when you cut the model. So let's go to projects. It's 2024, right? Let's go // Encore panel. And we're going to call this a floor connector detail item just to keep it kind of descriptive. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. All right, so now I think what I want is this my profile? This is my profile. Okay. So now I'm going to load this into, I think it's family one. Yikes. Do I have another copy of that somewhere? This is family one. So let's load this in to family one. And then we're going to insert detail components. Oh boy, why is it doing this? I've got, and that's why you don't import the drawings like that into Revit. Okay, so I'm going to drop that right there. Let me go see why it's doing that. Did I hide? Oh yeah, I did. I hid that. Let's save that. load it back in. Families are similar to SketchUp components, right? If I want to draw something custom, it'll always be a family classified as generic model. Not necessarily. Yeah. So we have all these categories. If you want something custom, you're going to categorize it based on what it is. If it's furniture, you want it to be furniture. Now, that being said, generic model is a good place to start. You can always change the category later on. Okay. So in this case, this is going to be, so curtain walls are kind of a complex place to start because it's like a family nested into a family nested into an assembly. So in this case, I've just made a detail component and I've nested that into a profile family. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create the profile of what the model piece is actually going to be. And this is going to be very janky. Okay. This is not going to be very clean, but it's going to get the idea across for now. So I'm basically just going to create a loop. I'm not going to go through and get all of these clip lines and things like that. I'm just going to get a loop. Encore, you can go through and when you do this, if you want to make this a lot more precise, you can do that. But for now, what I'm going to do is just get this to where we can demonstrate what it is we want to do. Including a demonstration of why you don't want quite so much detail in a profile family like this. Okay, so I'm going to hide this, and then I'm just going to use my trim tool to kind of clean up this profile a little bit. Right, and then I'm going to just hover over and hit tab to make sure I do have a closed loop. Right, and this is going to be offset from the origin. So this is going to be the origin of where that mullion happens. So let's bring this back. And we're going to save this as, this is going to be horizontal floor connector mullion. Spell that right? I think I did. Okay, we're going to load that in the project. And we're going to, what's that, project 2, I think. And there's a couple things that we're going to need to do here. The first thing that I need to do is I need to set up, let's bring this guy here just so we can see it as a reference. I'm just copy pasting that. Oh, I didn't bring the DWG into here. Insert link CAD, not import. Hello. Oh, wait. Well, I can select pinned objects. Why can't I select this? There's something jacked up with your DWG, my man. Next. There's something messed up with your DWG. Anyway, I can't even do this. let's bring the PDF back, because as bad as it is, at least I can manipulate it. All right, so I'm just going to bring this right here, and let's look at, let's bring this floor. Oh, do we not have snaps? This guy up to here. This up to this up to here. Actually, we're gonna go all the way up. And let's look and see. So it looks like we have, I move this. Wait, why are these not lined up? That's going to make this very different. Oh, okay, I see. That's the finished floor. Okay, we can work with that. So I'm going to make a reference plane and bring this right across here. Let's line that up here. All right, so our bottom mullion, okay, we're going to make a new mullion type. We're going to call this, call that sad mullion. We're going to unpin that. And then, oh my goodness. Is there a reason you're not going to let me? Okay, there we go. Now I can duplicate that. And we're going to call this floor connector mullion. And we're going to set the profile to horizontal floor collector mullion. Right? See where that gets us? Okay, we're flipped. Actually, we're flipped and rotated. Did I draw this? Did you guys let me draw this wrong? Interior. Look at that. You guys let me draw this wrong. You guys are horrible. Horrible, horrible friends. Right. Well, the good news is there's an easy solution to this. We're just going to mirror it across here. That. Save that. Load it into our project. Oh, actually, yeah, you guys are really, really bad friends. Because look, this is the interior and this is the exterior. And this is the center of the mullion. Man, I cannot believe you guys. All right, so I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees this way. Right? And then I'm going to flip it because I think this is going to end up being the top and the bottom. Right? So we're going to mirror it here, turn copy off. There we go. I think this gets us where we need to be. Yeah, good luck. You see how much I'm having to relearn doing this? This is not something that that you do daily that becomes practiced. It's something that you get to stumble through multiple times as you do this over and over again. Okay. So we're going to bring that back in. And hopefully now, when I go look at that section, oh, it's flipped. I was so close. Oh, no, don't want to copy. Flip. It is a little weird. That's front back. Exterior. Oh. Yep. Nope, this is right. Okay. I was looking at it backwards. Although maybe I wasn't. I don't know. That's a little weird. But we want it to be natively the correct orientation. So there we go. All right. So you can see my offset is like way up here. So we're going to need to figure out what that offset is and why it's doing that. If I bring this down here, it should bring it down. So we'll figure that out. Okay. But you can see here that there's a lot of detail that came in, right? Now, if I go in to this view and I turn off detail items, yep, there we go. So this is just what the profile looks like. I don't want to save this right now. Okay. So if I go look at that one, I'm going to do select mullions on grid line. We're going to unpin that bad boy. And we're going to call this there. Okay, so we can kind of see what that begins to look like. All right. And we want this to be continuous. Okay, so we can select all mullions on grid line, make continuous. There we go. Okay. So yeah, you're not going to see all that detail on the inside. All right. But when I go into this section, if I turn detail items on, boom, there it is. Okay. Now, what you're going to have to deal with is if we go and turn curtain wall mullions off. Okay, it turns it off. So you're going to have to figure out your compromise in your line work between the detail and not detail. That makes sense or not. Okay, so let's go through and we're gonna bring this down. Okay, so how do we get this to line up with what we've got here? Well, we want our mullion, okay, and our panel to break right there. So we're going. I lost my other one. There we go. Okay. So there's ways that you're going to set this up to be a specific pattern. Right now it's set to the vertical and horizontal grid to be a certain pattern. For now, I'm going to set this to none. All right. And it's going to complain, do you want to delete the grid line or not? I don't want to delete the grid line right now. I just want to take this grid line and I'm actually going to do what we just did a second ago. I'm going to take these mullions on grid line, unpin them, and unpin, and set them to this guy, right? Now I want to move this up to here. I think it's just that bottom one that didn't want to do it, right? Oh, yeah, that's what it is. It has to do with where that line was that we created right there. So it's because it's the bottom one that it didn't want to do that. You see how this one is centered on that grid line? That's what we want. Okay. And so then we've got our panel, which as we can see is a lot thicker here. Panel. Oh, you know what? I think lower connector mullion angle offset width aluminum blah blah blah. I feel like there's an offset somewhere here that I'm missing. Facing exterior. This thickness. Hit it? Or what? We're going to call that 1 inch. You know what? No, we'll call it 15/16 of an inch. Okay, so we can make a new panel type if we want it to have double layered. Oh, that is 1 inch thick. Okay, and where is that in relationship to? Oh, that's why it's so hot in here. I didn't realize you closed the door.
I did it when the boys were making dark. Now I'm gonna make noise letting the dog out.
Okay. 16ths. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to set this offset. We either need to fix our offset here. Okay, or we need to just offset this to be closer. And I think what's happened here is our curtain wall type here is set to be it's set to the middle, the wall curtain, the center line instead of the exterior of the glazing. So I think, let me see if I can figure out where that is. So the glass thickness 1 inch, offset 1 1/4. Okay, there's our first issue. All right, there we go. Starting to look better now. That should be about 1/13/16 of an inch. It's not. Why isn't it? Oh, because I dimensioned the wrong thing. This should be 1/23, 1/28 of an inch. Here. Pretty close. So something's a little off there, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. The other thing that we have here is this this other mullion type. Okay, is also set to be offset 5 inches from the sorry. No, that's not quite right. Is that 1 1/4 inch? Maybe that's from here to there. Is that one? No, that's 2.5 inches. We'll figure this out. What if we said so thickness is 5 inches, profile default. System volume rectangular. Offset. What if I do this -0 to 2.5 inches? Okay, close enough. Right, so there we go. So we've got that. Now the issue that we're running into is that our panels don't quite have excuse me, this offset with a profile. I think we can fix this by coming back in here. I think what we need to do is we need to draw I'm just going to create a reference here for the piece that will create the thickness in our profile between the panels. Oh, that's a spandrel piece too. Okay. Hello, Revit. There we go. All right, I'm going to load that in. Nope. Yeah, this is, I'm actually streaming this to my YouTube channel. So once it's done processing, I will post a link in the thread for this session so that you can take a look at it. I won't go back and do a more detailed tutorial just because time wise I don't have that much time. But you can step through this. I'll let you put it on 0.5 speed and go through it. I really wish I had more time to go through and do a more detailed tutorial. I've just got so much stuff going on. So, okay, you can see we added this here. So now what I'm going to do is going to trace that out here. And what I'm hoping will happen, I can't remember off the top of my head if this does actually work or not, is I'm hoping that it will create a break in the panel, the top and the bottom. Let's see. I feel like I was able to do this in the past. Project 2. Oh, that's a great question. I'm streaming. I don't think I'm recording to my hard drive, but I can download it and make it available if someone wants to. Oh, I messed up my loop. I messed up my loop. fix my loop. So all that means is that I don't have, see, I've got 2 loops now. So I need to go in and do this here. And so it looks like this interior loop here. I'm going to have to get rid of that if I want this to work. And I'm going to do that for now. You can go in and edit that if you want. Oh, I should have like mullions on grid line. Okay. So yeah, you can see now the panel breaks at that mullion, right? So if we look in our section, turn, oh, I need to turn that off. What in the world? I forgot that I left this turned in. You know what? I can just hide it in this. So visibility graphics, we're going to turn off imported categories. Okay, so now our panel breaks at that. It looks like I still didn't quite get. Oh, wait. Okay, so now our panel for some reason is offset. Thickness 1 inch, default glass offset. I'm just gonna, I don't know why I have to do this, but it looks like for some reason it wants me to offset the glass, like the panel. Maybe the panel is set on the origin of the panel. So if I think this is a system, yeah, I can't edit this family. I would probably make a family specifically for this. Like, so this is our regular glazing. This is going to be our spandrel glazing. So we can call this, we can make a new type. Duplicate it. Spandrel. The offset for this is going to be negative 0.25 inches because it's going to be ½ inch. Whoop. Okay. So there's our spandrel glazing. And then we just kind of repeat this over and over again, right? So we'll bring this up to whatever our spandrel height is. It looks like that'll be right here. And then our next floor connector would be, you know, wherever we put that. This doesn't get you completely where you want to be on core, but I think it gets you started to where you can get where you can get this. Let's see if I just do this. Bring this up to here. Just repeat this detail on the second floor here. And then I just select all the mullions on this grid line. Oh, I pin them. Floor connector mullion. Make it continuous. There we go. And this panel along that whole thing becomes spandrel. You can get extremely detailed with this. Right? You can make panel systems within panel systems within panel systems. But yeah, so like what Dum Dum and Sketchy are saying, you don't get too many clients that request this level of detail. If you're working for a facade company and you want to show this in a Revit model, this is the way that I would approach this. You would go in and you would make this detail. Now, actually, I'll be honest with you. You're only going to need to show this detail in one view, right? So what I would actually do is I would come in and I would make this detail component. So I'm going to delete this DWG, right? And we're going to save this. I'm going to load this into my project, right? And then what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to remove the detail component from my mullion profile. Save this, load it in. Okay. And I'm going to create a detail view specifically for this detail. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to come in here and I'm going to drop that detail component on top of that. And I'm going to turn off curtain wall mullions. And then I've got my detail exactly the way I want it. So that's probably how I would do this. Okay. Yes, it's really nice to be able to just cut a section anywhere and it shows that detail. But it just doesn't, I mean, documentation just doesn't work that way yet. It'd be kind of nice, but this is how I would probably do this today. So, all right. So that was the first 3-hour session. I think we're going to do a couple of other. Right, you'd only need it once. Hopefully, you're not showing this detail multiple times. That's the same. That's inefficient documentation. Showing it here and here. That's okay, because you want to show that it, from one floor to the next, that it is the same, and then you're repeating that module. But you're not going to cut it here, and then here, and then here to show that. All right. Well, I think that's going to be it for me. What I'd like is, I think tomorrow. So honestly, Dum, the file size isn't going to explode. The complexity of the geometry is going to explode. You can have a 500 megabyte Revit file that absolutely destroys a high spec machine because it has all that detail modeled in it. And the file size isn't going to be that big. So it's really more the model complexity that will absolutely destroy your machine. And on the inverse side of that, I've had 1 gigabyte Revit models that performed just fine because the geometry was simple geometry, and it was modeled, it was managed properly, and you were able to work in it with no issues. All right, think about what else we want to talk about. I would like to make these more regular. They probably won't be 3-hour long sessions, but I think we've got a good circumstance, a good cause to do this. So we'll be doing, I think, another one tomorrow, Sketchy. Is that right? And I think if Sketchy's satisfied with what he knows or what he's seen here for Revit knowledge and for his interview, I think he's wanting to do a little bit of sketching tomorrow. So we might do sketching with Sketchy tomorrow. And we'll see how that goes. Thoughts? And I'll be upfront with you, I am not a great sketcher. But I think maybe what we'll do tomorrow is we'll just come up with a couple prompts and we'll go over some sketching, like how we would sketch it. Might have a surprise for you tomorrow. I don't know, maybe Wednesday if it turns out to be that way. I may or may not be working on a special guest who might be able to help us with some sketching. So we'll see. Sketching that's all it's meant to be, is for you. And then you turn that into something that other people can read through technical drawings. Yeah, so again, the topic for this one was some topics that were presented to me by someone who needed to have a refresher on a few topics. I'm hoping we got all those. But yeah, I think in the future, I see this being maybe a monthly or twice a month thing, or maybe even more regular if other people in the community want to create a session and run a session. I see these being pretty regular. There's another community that I'm a part of that does weekly, every Friday at noon. They do a session that they record and put up. The logistics for this, though, is that because we are such an international community, it's hard to find a time that's really good for everyone. And the only time that like I'm going to be able to record is when I'm running the session. So this is too. Yes, we did. This is too detailed stuff that I haven't even seen in other tutorials. Well, hopefully it wasn't too detailed, like it's too overwhelming and messed you up. So hopefully it's stuff that you will be able to use. And yeah, I think unless you like go through the day and you're like, well, crap, now I really need to know how to do this in Revit. I think maybe we do tomorrow. Do the sketches, unless my special guest can only show up on Wednesday. Then maybe we do that Wednesday. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you everyone for joining. I think at one time we had like a dozen or 16 people who joined. So I'm glad to see that some people were joining in. And hopefully we hit that 50-person mark after a few sessions. I don't know that we're going to be able to like schedule events for a while, like actually have it show up as a community event. So we'll continue setting things up in threads with schedules, and we'll figure something out from there. Everyone have a good day, good night, wherever you're at. Don't think you're YouTube. I'm waiting for the rest of that sentence. Sorry, but I don't think you're YouTube. I think my YouTube. Or at least it says it's recording. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully it did. Everyone have a good night.